What if I told you that every habit you've ever tried to build has been failing, not because you lack willpower, not because you're lazy, but because you've been looking at it the wrong way? What if the secret isn't doing more, but understanding why your brain, your environment, and even your emotions are secretly working against you? Imagine waking up tomorrow and finally breaking free from the cycle of starting and quitting, because you learned the tiny shifts that make habits effortless, inevitable, and even joyful. What if one small adjustment in your identity, one tiny change in your environment, or one moment of seeing failure as a signal instead of a defeat could completely transform your life? Today, I'm going to reveal the shocking truth behind why habits fail and the 7 tiny fixes that actually work. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you won't just know why you struggle, you'll have the tools to finally make lasting change, and it will be easier than you ever imagined. What if I told you that all the times you failed to stick to a habit, it wasn't because you lacked willpower, motivation, or discipline? What if the real reason you couldn't wake up early, stop scrolling on your phone, or eat healthier wasn't the flaw in you at all, but a flaw in the environment you've unknowingly built around yourself? Most of us think that self-control is the magic key to habits, but science and real-life experience tell a very different story. Imagine walking into a room filled with your favorite snacks. Your willpower might last 5 seconds, maybe 5 minutes, but eventually the environment wins. Habits are not about forcing yourself, they're about designing a context where the right actions feel natural, almost inevitable. Look at your day. The triggers are everywhere: the chair where you slump after work that makes you reach for junk food, the phone notification that steals your focus before you even realize it, the couch that makes Netflix feel more attractive than your workout. These tiny cues are silently controlling your actions. Every failure is not a personal weakness. It's your environment dictating your behavior. When you understand this, it's shocking because it shifts all the blame off you and puts it where it belongs, in the context you've unconsciously created. Now imagine flipping this idea. Instead of asking, why can't I do this? You ask, how can I change my environment so this habit happens naturally? Move the snacks out of reach, set your phone in another room, lay out your workout clothes the night before. Suddenly, habits don't feel like a battle of willpower. They feel like the natural path your day takes. This is why tiny tweaks in context are often more powerful than hours of motivation or months of self-discipline. You're not fighting yourself, you're guiding yourself. This revelation is shocking because it means that you've been trying the hard way all along. You've been blaming yourself for failure when the real issue was invisible, silently shaping every choice you make. Your environment is like water and your habits are fish. They swim where the current takes them. Change the current, and fish will follow without struggle, without guilt, and without exhaustion. What if everything you've been doing to change your habits has been useless? Not because you weren't trying hard enough, but because you were trying the wrong way. What if the reason you can't stick to a diet, wake up early, or finally finish that project isn't your lack of discipline? It's your sense of who you think you are. Most people focus on what they do, actions, routines, checklists, but the truth is, lasting change comes from who you believe you are. Imagine trying to run a marathon while telling yourself, I'm not a runner. You could train for months, yet the moment it gets tough, your mind screams, this isn't you, and you quit. Our habits are mirrors of our identity. When you try to force a habit that doesn't align with your self-image, it will always feel heavy, unnatural, and temporary. That's why resolutions fail and willpower alone crumbles. People make the mistake of chasing results without transforming the underlying belief about themselves. You want to be a fit person, stop focusing on exercising, start believing, I am someone who prioritizes my health. You want to write every day, stop scheduling hours blindly, start believing, I am a writer. The actions follow the identity, not the other way around. Here's the shocking part. Most of us don't even notice the subtle self-labels we carry. You might tell yourself, I'm not good with money, I'm bad at relationships, or I don't have time for learning. Every habit you try to adopt that conflicts with these beliefs will fight back no matter how motivated you are. The real reason your habits keep failing isn't a lack of strategy. It's a mismatch between your actions and your identity. Now imagine flipping the script. Instead of trying to do, start thinking in terms of being. I am the kind of person who keeps promises to myself. I am the kind of person who prioritizes growth. I am the kind of person who honors my body. Every small choice then becomes easy because it's no longer a chore. It's a reflection of who you already are. You stop fighting yourself and start cooperating with the person you're becoming. This insight is shocking because it means that the countless hours you spent forcing habits, counting calories, or writing to-do lists might have been mostly wasted. The secret wasn't more effort, it was a shift in identity. Change who you believe you are, and the habits that once felt impossible will begin to feel inevitable, natural, and effortless. What if I told you that the reason your habits keep failing isn't because you were lazy or unmotivated, but because you've been trying to do too much at once? What if the secret to massive lasting change isn't in grand gestures, long routines, or monumental effort, but in the tiniest, almost invisible actions you take every day? Most people think transformation has to be dramatic, a sudden gym streak, a perfect diet, or a marathon-length work session. The shocking truth is this is exactly why people quit so quickly. The bigger the leap, the heavier the resistance, and the faster the momentum dies. Imagine trying to lift a weight that's 10 times heavier than what your body can handle. No matter how determined you are, your body will fail. Habits work the same way. Small wins are the weights you can lift consistently, and over time they build strength you never imagined. Brushing your teeth, drinking one glass of water, writing one sentence, taking one walk, tiny actions that seem insignificant compound into life-changing results. The problem is we ignore the power of small victories because we crave instant transformation. We want fireworks, not sparks. Here's the shocking part: the brain craves success. When you achieve something, even something tiny, it releases dopamine, giving you a sense of accomplishment and motivation to continue. By aiming for small, achievable steps, you're hacking your brain to love the habit rather than resent it. When you try to force huge leaps, your brain rebels, telling you it's too hard, too exhausting, too overwhelming, and you quit. Now imagine redesigning your habits around small, almost effortless wins. Want to read more? Start with 1 page a day. Want to exercise? Start with 5 push-ups. Want to meditate? Close your eyes for 1 minute. These seemingly trivial actions are like pebbles dropped into a pond. Each creates ripples, building momentum until one day you wake up and realize the habit is no longer a struggle, it's part of who you are. The shocking revelation is that success isn't about rare, heroic moments, it's about tiny, consistent victories stacked on top of each other. You've been trying to sprint before learning to walk, expecting change overnight and blaming yourself when it doesn't happen. The truth is, the most powerful habits don't come from force, they come from compounding small wins until transformation becomes inevitable, effortless, and unstoppable. What if I told you that the reason your habits keep failing isn't because you're not disciplined enough, but because your heart isn't in it? What if the real secret to sticking to a habit isn't forcing yourself to act, but actually feeling why it matters deep inside you? Most people focus on logic. They set goals, make plans, and try to force themselves to follow routines. But what they forget is that human beings are driven first by emotion and second by reason. Your brain doesn't act on spreadsheets or schedules. It acts on what it cares about, what it craves, and what excites it. Imagine trying to run every morning simply because someone told you it's healthy. You might last a few days, maybe a week, but the moment discomfort hits, your motivation evaporates. Now imagine running because you feel alive in your body, because movement connects you to yourself, or because it gives you the energy to chase your dreams. Suddenly, the habit doesn't feel like a punishment. It feels like a need, a natural part of who you are. The shocking truth is, habits fail when they are disconnected from your emotional drivers. You've been relying on self-discipline alone, and that's like trying to power a car with no fuel. It will stop the moment resistance appears. Here's what most people miss: every habit has an emotional anchor, whether you recognize it or not. People stick to habits when the habit solves a pain or satisfies a desire in a deeply personal way. That's why quitting smoking works when you connect it to wanting to feel free, or exercising sticks when it's about self-respect, not calories burned. When the why is weak or invisible, the how doesn't matter. Now imagine redesigning your habits by attaching them to a strong emotional connection. Instead of forcing yourself to meditate because it's good for you, meditate because it gives you clarity and peace in a chaotic world. Instead of forcing yourself to eat healthy, choose foods that nourish you so your body feels vibrant, alive, unstoppable. When habits are emotionally charged, they stop being a battle. They become an expression of who you are and who you want to become. The shocking revelation is that for most of your life, you've been trying to change your behavior without first touching your heart. You've been chasing habits as if they were chores, instead of aligning them with your deepest emotions. The truth is, emotion is the engine of change, and without it, even the strongest willpower is powerless. When your heart leads, your habits follow effortlessly, naturally, and permanently. What if I told you that the reason your habits keep failing isn't because you lack motivation or willpower, but because you've been flying completely blind? What if all the hours, planning, and effort you put into changing yourself had been almost useless because you had no way to measure your progress or hold yourself accountable? Most people think they can rely on memory, good intentions, or sheer discipline, but the shocking truth is that without feedback, habits have no direction. They drift, wobble, and eventually collapse. Imagine trying to drive across the country without a map, GPS, or even street signs. You'd probably get somewhere, but it would be a long, exhausting, and frustrating journey. Habits are exactly the same. Tracking is the map. It shows you where you are, how far you've gone, and what adjustments you need to make to reach your goal. Without it, you're wandering aimlessly, expecting results from hope and willpower alone. And accountability? That's your co-pilot. Someone or something keeping you honest, reminding you of your commitments, and making it harder to give up when it gets tough. Here's the shocking part. The simplest forms of tracking and accountability can change your life dramatically. Writing down your progress, checking off a small win each day, or sharing your goals with a friend or coach triggers your brain to pay attention, recognize patterns, and reinforce the habit loop. Suddenly, every action has a consequence, every choice becomes visible, and quitting starts to feel much harder than continuing. People fail not because habits are impossible, but because the feedback loop is missing. Now imagine redesigning your approach. Want to run more? Track your distance, time, or consistency. Want to meditate? Note every session and share your streak with someone you trust. Want to eat healthier? Log your meals and notice patterns. Every time you see progress, your brain rewards you with dopamine. Every time you are held accountable, your focus sharpens. Habits no longer live in the abstract. They become tangible, measurable, and actionable. The shocking truth is that most of your struggles with habits aren't personal failures. They're systemic failures. You've been trying to change behavior without the tools that guarantee success. Tracking and accountability are not optional. They are the secret forces that make invisible progress visible, fleeting motivation permanent, and ordinary actions unstoppable. The moment you start measuring, noting, and sharing, everything shifts. Your habits stop being a guessing game and start becoming inevitable victories. What if I told you that every time you fail to stick to a habit, it isn't proof that you're weak, lazy, or incapable, but actually a message, a signal designed to show you exactly where to adjust? What if the reason most habits fail isn't because you lack effort, but because you misinterpret failure as defeat? Most people see a missed workout, a skipped page of journaling, or a late night dessert as proof that they've failed, and they quit, beat themselves up, and promise to do better tomorrow. The shocking truth is that this is the exact opposite of what failure is meant to teach you. Imagine trying to navigate a complex maze without feedback. Every wrong turn feels like a setback, until you realize each wrong turn is a clue guiding you to the correct path. Habits work the same way. Every time you slip, overeat, procrastinate, or miss your routine, your brain is giving you data. This environment is too tempting. This approach is unsustainable. This trigger is too strong. Ignoring it, blaming yourself, and pushing harder is like walking blindly into walls, painful, exhausting, and unnecessary. Here's the shocking part. When you start seeing failure as a signal rather than a verdict, your entire relationship with habits changes. The moment you slip, instead of guilt, curiosity arises. Why did I do this? What can I tweak in my environment, mindset, or approach to prevent it next time? Each failure becomes a lesson, each misstep becomes a guide, and progress accelerates in ways you never imagined. People who succeed long-term don't avoid failure. They respond to it intelligently. They learn, adjust, and keep moving, while others quit at the first sign of struggle. Now imagine flipping the script completely. A missed workout doesn't erase your progress. It tells you maybe your schedule needs adjustment. A skipped meditation doesn't define you. It tells you perhaps your routine isn't practical yet. When failure becomes a teacher rather than a judge, habits stop being fragile. They become resilient, adaptive, and unstoppable. The shocking truth is that the fear of failure has been your biggest enemy, not laziness or distraction. The moment you embrace failure as feedback, you unlock a level of consistency and growth most people never reach. What if I told you that every failure you've ever feared is actually your greatest secret weapon? The habits that once seemed impossible can now become inevitable, effortless, and lasting because failure is no longer a roadblock. It's the roadmap guiding you straight to success. So the truth is clear. Your habits haven't been failing because of weakness or lack of willpower. They've been failing because of the invisible forces around you, the identity you haven't fully claimed, the tiny wins you ignored, the emotions you overlooked, the feedback you didn't track, and the signals you misread. Change doesn't come from forcing yourself harder. It comes from understanding, designing, and responding wisely. When you shift your environment, align your identity, celebrate small wins, connect emotionally, track progress, and embrace failure as guidance, you create a system where habits don't just survive, they thrive. Remember, transformation isn't about perfection. It's about momentum, awareness, and consistency. Start small, start today, and trust that each tiny adjustment compounds into extraordinary change. Good luck on your journey. Keep believing in yourself, keep learning from every step, and never underestimate the power of one small intentional action. Thank you for giving your time, your focus, and your openness to growth. Your next breakthrough is waiting just around the corner.